This is Barbara Tien with Project Kin, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to Kathy's Corner, our very special program with Kathy Stone, professional photo organizer who brings to all of us here at Project Kin her insight and experience on handling the photos and artifacts of our analog collections, bringing them into the digital world so that we can use them as part of our stories. So with that, why don't I hand it over to Kathy to go ahead and get started with today's program. Kathy?
Thank you, Barbara. I am just going to, found the right screen right at the top there. Oh, I've got something, not what I'm thinking. Okay, so anyway, here we go. Where in the world finding places in our photos? And this is a bit of a shift today from Kathy's Corner. We've been, over the years, we've been talking about how to get our photos organized and all these other things, how to get um, are things digitized, what to do with them, what we talked about organizing software and all sorts of things. We're going to shift a little bit now to once we've got them all digitized, then we're working on them. A lot of the times when we have older photos or even current ones, we're trying to find information on where those photos were taken. And that's something I've been dealing with. I actually experienced this live in person on Saturday. I was working on my own collection of a bunch of scans from the 1980s, which seems to me to not be that long ago, but apparently it is like about 40 years ago. And I can't fathom that. And apparently my memory is not that great. So I'm looking at all these photos, and these were scanned from a big mess I had of negatives that I either sometimes I could find the prints, which helps, or couldn't. But I had a whole pile of photos, and I'm like, oh, I don't really know where that is. I have a general idea, but I don't know the specifics. And if I could figure out exactly where it was, I wouldn't know how to put those pictures into the proper order. So now we're moving. So for two reasons today, we're going to shift the focus to identifying people, places, things in the photos. And we're going to start with places, which might not have been where we normally would start, but we decided since starting this week, is the big genealogical conference all about that place, which I think Barbara will probably pop a link to that in the chat for me. And which is we had a session yesterday, and it's talking all about doing research on places. And I thought, well, that's a good time to talk about how to identify places in our photos. And also, we're going to move the shift. Kathy's Corner is going to move a little bit on to what I just finished saying, gathering that other information. So instead of looking at a photo going, I have no idea where that is, I don't know what that is, I'm going to just toss it. Maybe it will, in fact, turn out to be helpful for you to tell the story and figure out where it belongs, and also how it fits with other pictures at the same time. So that's what we're going to talk about today, about identifying locations. Again, huge help sometimes in adding time frames to photos. One of the collections I worked on, they frequently went to Formula One racing, and a lot of times these were again scans, and there were no dates on these photos. But by Googling the location, so if it was F1 in Montreal, I could get a list of all the dates that F1 had been in Montreal and figure out which was the most logical time frame for that particular photo, which then helped with all the other photos that were all obviously from the same role and event. But by identifying that location in a photo, I could then find more information about it. You can also do cool things like create maps for a travel by having the locations for photos. You could make a map that shows a trip that you took. So there's all sorts of possibilities. But the big part is to help about telling the story. And so what I'm going to look at is we're going to talk about the where, and landmarks, landscapes, signs, license plates, and the back of photos. Okay, so just let me find my stop share. I think I want to stop this share. Hang on, stop share. Okay, there we go. We stopped share. So Barbara's put the information in there. So looking at all these various things and ways they can help us, there's a tool that I recently discovered, which many of you may also have used a ton already and are going like, oh, it's not new to me, Kathy. But Google Lens is one of the tools that is very helpful in identifying all these different things. So I'm going to share my screen again. And hang on 1 second before I do that. I've got to find just 1 second. Got to find where's Google disappeared to? There it is. Okay. Now we're in business. Zoom, share. So I have found this tool called Google Lens. And so here is just my basic Google, and I had to Google where one would find Google Lens, but it's right here in this little camera right here. And if you click on the lens, it brings up search any image with a by uploading the file. So if you pick on a landmark, for example, and let's do a very famous one that you probably would recognize without that, it immediately finds the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. And this is from one of my photos. So had I have found that picture and not remembered what it was, I would have immediately told me it's the first choice. But the other neat part about it is if you look at what's popped up here, move you guys over, you've got Wikipedia, which will tell you about the Golden Gate Bridge. This one actually, this even tells us which side we're approaching from. This picture is almost identical to mine, which is mind-boggling. But you can there expand your story if you want to include a little bit about the history of a place just by using the image search. So I've got all these different things here. If I want to buy a picture, I can buy it on Fine Art America, but all sorts of links. But this one, pretty clear because it was a famous landmark. With landmarks, the other thing that you can identify dates of photos sometimes by looking at I'll stop my share again for a minute and we'll go back to that in a second. With landmarks, you can also look at getting dates from, oh, Barbara says that's the reason there's all those pictures is because it's the vantage point for taking pictures. Good point. With landscape, you could also, or sorry, landmarks, you could also look at things like if you've got a picture of Big Ben, there's a famous landmark, and there's hoarding around it, like construction hoarding, I mean, not hoarding, construction hoarding around the picture. You can then search Big Ben in Google and find images of it, like search for images, and look for ones that have construction, or you could Google construction on Big Ben restoration, and it'll help you pinpoint a date. Not only are you finding the location, but it can help you with the all important thing of locating the date of a picture. Also looking around sometimes types of vehicles, like the era of vehicles. If you do a simple Google search for a vehicle type, you'll get all sorts of images, and you can compare the vehicle in your picture to the vehicles that come up in the search and maybe get a time frame for when the picture was taken by, or maybe not, you're not going to get an exact day, but you might get a range of time where those kind of vehicles were common. Sometimes also this could fall under anything. Well, actually, it's a separate category. I think that I'm not sure I put it on the list, but license plates. License plates and photos can be a real big help in identifying the place because you're going to find a state on them or a province or a country maybe, or whatever that helps you pinpoint where that was located. And then you can Google dates associated with that. My one collection I worked with had a lot of photos from Texas and old photos from where we are here in Calgary, Alberta. And so I could see it was an Alberta license plate. And then I can Google what years did Alberta have a 4-digit license plate, because it's been a long time since we had 4-digit license plates. And immediately I get a date range that then may help give me the information to put more context into that photo. So lots of like the details in photos can really help. I'm going to share my screen again and we'll go back to San Francisco. I'm quite impressed with how this works. So I got to close it, open it again. Oh, you're seeing the Google thing again, right? Yep. Okay.
Yep.
So let's look for some maybe less known landmarks. Uh, Now this is supposed to be, this should be somewhere famous. Yep, there it is, popped right up. So this is um, Lucy the elephant, who is in Margate City in New Jersey. So immediately we get the picture comes up. So if I've got this picture, and this was sent to me by my brother and sister-in-law, and I'm looking at it going, oh, I wonder where that came from. And then immediately I just drop it in there, and right away it's no, didn't like me doing that. Okay, right away I know where it is. So you have to bear with me because I really am having fun with this. So let's look at something there. So here's another one, which the Canadians in the group will probably recognize what that is without even looking. However, this is, and this, it's far away too, way up on a hill, and it's right up there. There's, again, almost exactly like my picture. It's the Prince of Wales Hotel in Waterton Lakes National Park. So right away, I get the, um, I get the information, and then can do further Googling. Is this under here or under landscapes? We did the bridge. Well, let's just try this one. No, that one should be in buildings. Am I in buildings? This should be a landmark. And you could also see how it's picked the building to look at, not my grandmother, but I'm going to see if it comes up with what this is. Any of the Canadians know what this is?
That one in Quebec on the upper left, isn't it?
Yes, that's it. So this is in Quebec, and this image is untitled, but in fact, if we click on that, and we got to download a document. Okay, close the document. It's the oldest house in Canada. I'll quickly translate for you. So it's found, yeah, sorry, I missed that. Thank you, Barbara. So this is a building in Quebec, and this is off one of my personal photos that belonged to my aunt that I really had no idea. I did not know the significance of the building. I knew it was in Quebec, but I didn't have any idea what the significance was. So as you can see, I've been having a lot of fun with Google Lens. And maybe we'll shift to, we did that one, we did that one. Oh, this was an interesting one, and I think it told me what it was. So this is, I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, what the heck is that image? And then I came back with which is what it is. It's the Universal Studios Hollywood. It's a shot on their backlog lot. So it found that pretty quick because I was looking at it trying to think, what rundown place was I in that looked like that? So that was a good one too.
If I may interject, Kathy, this
Absolutely.
reminds me of many of you, several of you were at the program yesterday we had for All About That Place with Simon Davies doing a talk about, ways to be using the idea of place and your family stories. And he gave an example, which I'll use in a social media post tomorrow morning, of staging family pictures exactly like pictures his grandparents had taken in the early 1960s that he staged with his own kid, knowing exactly where that was. But what you're doing here, Kathy, is essentially showing people how to get to that point.
Hmm.
And you'll see that you'll see that in the video if you go to it's centered now focus at projectkin.org.
Yes, that was a very good session. So another thing you can look at in photos to get an idea, and I tried some of these with Google Lens, and some work, some don't, but could give you a good idea of where somewhere was taken by the signs in the background. So I could just keep talking and stop sharing my screen. Where do I want to share? I need to go back to Google. Where'd my Google go? Hang on 1 second. I'm gonna get there. Maybe I'll just leave my screen open. Back into Google Lens. There. And you can see, you can drag an image or upload a file too. You don't have to just, no, you can't see because I'm not sharing my screen. Hang on. I think I'll just stop trying to switch back and forth. Share. Zoom, share. There we go. Here we are. So you can either, if you I erased my screen there, you can either drag an image, which is what I'm doing to save time, or you can upload a file if you want to just upload a file in there. I've got a folder open with pictures in it, so you can do that. But when we're looking at signs, can also be a really good indicator for when something was taken. And so this, or when or where. So here's another image of mine. And let's just get this a bit bigger. Where'd the thing go that's the actual identical image of it? Come on. Well, maybe we have detected a bit of an inconsistency here where we aren't finding the same one because this is not in Yonge Street. Did I miss it at the top again? Oh, not that Canadian Imperial Bank. Is that it? No. Sept. That's it. There. Oh yeah, we didn't want to do that. Hang on. Let's go back to Google Lens. So anyway, this was that it? This was it. So this one, which is, I don't know why that's in the background, but I can't seem to see, it brought it up right away before because right here under these strange marks, it says Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, and it found this exact location because that's Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce in Edmonton and gave me
Street corner.
the actual location, gave me the address and everything. Like this was the corner of Jasper Avenue and 99th Street, gave me all the information on it. So I wonder if you can just do this. Let's see. Nope, you can't do that. Okay. So we'll look at another one in terms of signs. And this one didn't work, did not give me the location, but it brings my point to, so this one, it's lots of pictures of a woman standing by something. Is what it's picking up. So, but half the sign is cut off. But by doing some research, so this you can see in the picture, let me get it right off the edge there. It says, walk a mile for a camel. It's an old Camel cigarettes advertisement. And I could actually Google Camel cigarette advertisements from that sign and figure out when that picture, the range for when that picture was taken. That one couldn't get a location because obviously there's not a lot there in the picture. I might be able to, if I enlarged it really a lot, to see this, whatever this was in the background. That might be my next point of research. But it did give me enough information to be able to go and Google the sign itself. So you can get a lot of information from signs like that, even advertising. So this one, this is my last one I'll do of these and just see if it could pick out the sign. I'm trying to figure, I want this sign in the background here and that building there. This is a long shot because there's not a whole lot there. And this is not going to be in Europe, in spite of what you might think. It is in Calgary, but no, we're not getting a whole lot out of that. So we've got to look at that sign and try and figure out what the missing words are to put a date on that. So we have a date. Obviously, it's World War II by the uniforms, Canadian military. And which I think now we've got, there's other pictures of soldiers and things, but we can tell none of that this would be at the beginning of the war because none of them have any decoration on them yet. So this, in fact, was when my grandfather enlisted, and it was in Calgary. But I'm going to have to. We aren't going to get anything out of that picture right now. So
By the way, I'll add another tidbit for you, Kathy, while you
absolutely,
look for the next one, is that I discovered as Ponga that there are whole groups on Facebook of people who specialize in different military uniforms.
yes,
So if you have a photograph of somebody in a particular military uniform and you want to figure out who it is and where it is, they can probably tell you, whose uniform it is and roughly what period it is and what service it is, which maybe you can go back into other documents to find. It's kind of
exactly.
breathtaking.
Yeah. Okay. Back to Google Lens. And so buildings, this is something I found Google Lens particularly useful for because I lived in the province of Quebec in the when I lived there in the 1980s, which apparently is a long time ago. And there's a lot of churches in Quebec, and they kind of some of them start to look the same after a while. And so I found this picture of a church and I popped it into Google Lens because I couldn't remember where it was, and boom, there it is. It's Notre Dame des Victoires, and it's in Quebec City. So boom, right away, 2 seconds. I've got. I remember I was in there. This one actually, if I enlarged it a bit more, I could have seen the fact it's actually written right on the church, but it's very tiny in the picture. And to hunt and look for that would have taken a lot more. And so, as I say, there's a lot of churches in Quebec. So let's look for another one. So I'm going to drag this one. And this is the Church de Madeleine de Rigaud, right there, same church, that's it, with the doors. And I lived in Rigaud. Rigaud is a very tiny town. If any of you are familiar with the road between Ottawa and Montreal, Rigaud is a very tiny town. When I lived there, it has a population of about 2,000 people. So to be able to find that church, and if you look, there's a bunch of pictures of it here. And again, if we make this a bit bigger so you can see my whole picture, it's taken from the other side of the bridge, which there's a picture right there, which is almost taken from the same place. So just to be able to figure out, and I like I said, I should remember, but it's a long time ago, and there's lots of churches in Quebec. So this one amazed me here. So this is we're talking about now buildings. This is sort of a landscape too. It's got buildings in it. So this one, um, if you look at the shape of the mountain, this is a picture taken not too far away, and it when I click on that, it takes me to the Kananaskis CB, the prisoner of war camp during World War II. And the significance of that photo to me is my grandfather was a guard there. And it
Wow.
told me, if you've heard when we've talked before, sorry, I'm making you seasick by screening, but I just wanted to show you if you've seen, I think it's particularly last one we talked with Marty McNabb about my sharing the story of my cigarette or my shoop in a bottle. It says this paragraph explains the internees were talented craftsmen and produced handicrafts. When you're in the middle of the mountains like that, it's not really an escape thing when you're a German prisoner and have been hauled all the way to Canada. There's really not a lot of places to go. So there were people who tried to escape, but most of them would come back. So here it talks about the items were traded amongst themselves as souvenirs. They opened the sale to camp staff and the guards in 1944. One of those things was ships in a bottle. Um, Desk sets. I have picture frames as well. So this is I've got now all my information on the camp too, and a bunch more pictures. But there's the picture that shows that's taken very similar to the one I took, which is the view of the prisoners' quarters and the soccer field. Like I said, it was a pretty relaxing place. But so that one made me very happy to figure that out, and now I can put some more. Got to get a little restoration done on that photo too. But I just thought, wow, I was impressed by that. And again, as I say, I've been searching places that I know where they are, but this is one, and I have no idea what this is. Oh, actually, no, I just remembered what it is. And it's probably not going to show up in here because this was one of my relatives' old houses in Wainwright, Alberta. Wainwright, Alberta, not a very big place, so. But it's actually bringing me up a whole bunch of similar looking houses so that if I was looking for a home, I may find it through Google Lens as well. See, I didn't check them all out to make sure I could find them. This one I did check, and it kind of blew my mind because I mentioned, and you got a comment now. It's picked out me, which hopefully I don't show up in the people, but then obviously it'll search for people. But I didn't want to search for me. Obviously, 1980s. That was a long time ago. So I just selected the building, and the number one picture right at the top is Secret de la Montagne, which is exactly where that was in that little town of Rigaud. It is the sugar cabin, I think, in English, and there's all those pictures of it. And I was just like, I was blown away because I thought that's where it was, but I wasn't sure because, like I said, I can't remember. And then boom, there it is. Found it right away. It's just so easy to, and then you've got the dates for the photos. Another building, this was another one that that I thought I'd see. So if you've got those, no, drag an image, Kathy, think what you're doing. I'm gonna drag this one. So right on the top, Taylor Field in Regina. The Canadians will know what that is. It's the football stadium, the home of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and it has been torn down and replaced with a brand new football stadium, but it still found it and identified it that quickly. So, and I've got quite a few pictures kind of like this of football stadiums where, because I used to go to different football stadiums and watch football games. So it's kind of handy because looking at that, you're like, oh, yeah, I wonder which stadium that was because they all kind of were looking the same. So it's very easy to quickly, I like the speed of it to just put something in there. I'll put one in that I haven't checked and then we'll move on. So this is a picture that was in my aunt's collection. I don't think it was a residential school. Some kind of school. So I didn't know if it would have identified this building. Wilder, Harlan. Let's go back up higher because that seemed to give me more results. So I would have to dig deeper in here because pretty sure, although I'd have to go back and look and see if that is in fact my aunt in the picture, or if she's not there, then it could be one of these other locations that it brought up. Pretty sure it wasn't in Ontario, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't a residential school. I think it was the school that my aunt went to. But so sometimes you got to do more research after you put something through, but it gives you some direction to do your research. You're not just stuck with that. All right. What next? 1 second. We talked about landscape signs, landmarks, buildings. Another use, and we talked about the license plates. And another thing, and do I have pictures? Yes, I do, but I'm not going to put them in Google Lens. So we'll just do a quick share of these pictures. Oh, you probably aren't seeing what I'm on now. I'm going to have to stop and restart the share because I've changed windows. Uh-oh. Did you lose me?
Oh,
Hello?
we have you. We have you. We're
Okay.
all, oops.
Mine right now says Zoom is not responding.
Well, we lost your video.
Lost my video. That's probably why. Oh,
And my video, oh, there we go. I'm moving again. So
but I'm
Zoom may have
not.
just experienced a hiccup, but we can hear
Yes.
you. So
Okay.
keep
Well, what I
on
was going to
keeping
I'll just
on.
have to talk and not show you things until this decides. I have the spinning wheel of death going, but
Uh,
another way you can find information on where a place was taken by looking at the backs of photos. And I know we talked about this before, and it's useful even for dates too. But a lot of times on older photos, the photographer would put a stamp on the back that also gave its location of where the picture, where the developer was, not
Kathy,
necessarily me.
may I suggest you stop the share for a second?
I can't.
Oh, I see. That's what you
That's
can't do.
what's
Oh, wait a
frozen.
second. Maybe I can
I either have to close the program and come back in,
uh,
or do you want to talk about the National Register of Historical Places, Barbara? And I will
sure.
log out and log
Shh.
back in.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. And if it asks you about switching hosts when you do that, send it to me. So, I'm back. This is a document that I actually shared with Kathy as we were doing a little pre-roll earlier. And it is here in the United States, we have this idea of a National Register of Historic Places. You probably have a similar sorts of things everywhere in the world, I would imagine. And it's essentially a federal, in this case, I think it's the Interior Department, there it is, Department of Interior that takes responsibility for it. And it's a little bit like like an archival role. And there's a very specific sort of a set of requirements to how it is completed. Is that you, Kathy, coming back? Whoops. Okay, so yes, she's probably gone and come back. In any case, there's a very special set of requirements, almost like tax filing and expertise in who it is that fills them in. So if you're fortunate enough to be trying to find some, location where family lived, and you discover that it is on the Register of National Places, or you just have the address and you think the building is still there and important, try searching with that kind of a of assumption that it will be there, and you'd be amazed. The document she was showing was a document that I found having searched for. I had the location of the town. I knew my family lived in the South, and it dawned on me that maybe it was a plantation. So I looked for Belvedere Plantation, and it turned out that the building is still standing. It is on the National Registry of Historic Places, and the filing had this amazing history to it. I don't care about all the gables and whatnot about the description of the building itself. What I cared about was the historical nature of the building and what they could tell me about who lived there, when they lived there, and all of these kinds of things. I have old Quaker family that lived in North Carolina. So it was very interesting to me. And I knew that the place was just an hour, 90 minutes or so from where my brother has a house today, which was also a surprise and a lot of fun. So finding those kinds of documents is really quite a treasure. Kathy, are you back on?
I'm back.
Oh, there you go. I was just
Yeah.
babbling on.
Well, I was waiting till you finished because we were going to talk about that. So now I don't have to talk about it. But
Yeah,
and you can look up. A resource document that we'll attach. We have the National Register of Historic Places for the United States, Canada, and I put the one in for the UK as well. We'll have to maybe find a few more for the some of the other places, but it's called Historic England, and it looks like a really useful site. So I think I wanted to mention that there's lots of AI sites that will, or not, well, I don't know about lots, but there's probably some and more later. Google Photos, the program actually has the reverse image search in it built in, Barbara's used. There's other ones, and what I would caution, because you remember when we talked about organizing software, is we always want to be concerned about our privacy. And so I checked after I had after, because that's the good time to check, stuff in Google Lens. I thought, gee, am I uploading all my personal photos? And they're now going to become, when someone searches something, there's going to be that picture of my mother standing on the corner in Edmonton. But the privacy lens says your search activity will only be stored to your account, and it will only be stored if web activity is turned on, and your photos will not be stored in the app otherwise. So they're not being stored anywhere. You can set them to be private. So in fact, Google Lens, depending on your overall Google settings, Google Lens is private. You can make it private if if your search history and web activity is not being recorded, then these searches won't. And that's my advice. I looked at a couple other sites today because I thought, well, let's see what else is out there. And the first one, right over the block where I would put a photo in, it said, please agree to the following terms and conditions. And this one of them was click here and read this big long document. And the second one was, I give you the rights to my photo. So I didn't demonstrate that because I'm not giving anybody the rights to my photo. So just be careful when you, and I think reverse location lookup is probably what a search term to find some other sites, but I don't know. Google Lens seems to work pretty good.
There used to be a site that I used quite a bit called tineye.com. A site's still there, but and it was designed primarily for businesses that were protecting the copyright on their images. So it would look up and tell you all the places where a given image has been used, even if the image has been manipulated. Somehow it's suddenly not working at all.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that's because of changes that Google has made or they have made or business model changes or something, but I can't recommend it now. But there are others out there and they're all doing the same thing. And you're right. Many of their business models are about taking your images.
Yeah. And we do talk a lot in Project Kin about privacy and wanting to ensure the privacy of your collections, even when we're picking places to store them. So, what else did I have? Oh, a couple other places. I'm not going to even try and share my screen again because that scared the wits out of me. So I'm just going to read you the last slide. Um, some of the other things that can be used for, I can't even find it on my computer. There it is. Google, in the terms of tools to use, we mentioned Google Lens. The historical places registry is another good place to look up landmarks. There's actually, if you Google landmarks in your country or in your city, like if you know you were in San Francisco, but you're not sure what that particular location was. I had one that was, I knew it was taken on Fisherman's Wharf, but I threw it into Google Lens and it came up as Pier 39. So it actually told me Pier 39 at Fisherman's Wharf. And another picture that I couldn't tell where it was because obviously we were traveling around in California and it picked out that it was a location in San Francisco. But if you look up landmarks, like, if say you saw the Golden Gate Bridge, but you didn't know what it was, but you thought, oh, that's famous. You can always search landmarks in the location by location. Just Google landmarks in Canada, whatever, and that can be a very useful way. I did Googled landmarks in Canada and I did Alberta, and there's a place in Banff National Park called Caven Basin, which is a hot springs that was one of the first places discovered in Banff National Park before it was even a park. And the cool part about that is it also gave me a link to the whole history of Caven Basin. So it would give you a link to add to the story, as opposed to just saying, here's Caven Basin in your story. Like if you want to expand the story of where you're visiting, it would tell you what that was. So land title records, if you're looking for individual places, can also be useful. And some are public, some aren't. Some you may have to pay a fee to get search at land title. I was looking for land titles in Alberta, specifically in Edmonton. I was going to try and see what I could find out about places I'd lived. And I need to know the land description. I couldn't just put the address in. But I suspect if I piled in some of the addresses and just put them into Google search, I'd find those places. And that might be useful if you're trying to find, picking up on Simon's talk yesterday, if you want to put in some pictures of where you grew up, but you don't have any photo. I've got photos of the house, of the porch. I've got photos of the fence in the backyard. I don't have any photos of the whole property. So that would be a way to look up if I want to include that in here's where I grew up. And again, with landmarks, you could find pictures of the hospitals you were born in. Although Linda, if you were born at Calgary General, you'd have to find old pictures since we blew it up a while ago. So, but that's, I think, the beauty of Google too, is having access to old images too, because it's not like you could just go and take a picture now. So that's about all I've got to talk about, I think. Google Maps can be another useful place to search for things if you want to see a map with things on it. So in terms of the tools, I think that's everything I've got. So that's just an overview of helping us date photos by using different tools available. And we're lucky in the time we live in now that there are these tools available and you're not just stuck going, I wonder what that is.
Yeah, that's
But
fabulous.
play around with it. It's a very big rabbit hole, I must say. I was preparing for today and I spent a lot of time just going, oh, I wonder where that picture was taken. I wonder where that picture was taken. And you're lucky because I trimmed down how many I was going to show you. So I didn't show you everything I was searching today but it's quite fun and it's like to me it seems like a really easy way to figure out where something happened.
That's fabulous. Thank you, Kathy. Do you want to open it up for questions? Do you want to just turn your
Absolutely.
video on, turn your microphone on, and join the fun?
Kathy, I noticed above the image when you were searching for it, there's a button that said find image source when you were in
Yes.
Google. Have you ever used that or what does it?
I haven't yet, no. And I think
Right.
I probably will. As I said, I'm coming late to the party for Google Lens here, but I had heard about it earlier this year in another webinar. And when I was digging and working on my own photos, my digitized photos on the weekend, trying to get them into the right years, because they're a mess. It was that makes me feel better, Jennifer, because I didn't know about it either till just recently. And so I haven't gone that far in to look for sources, but that may be an area, like when I said the rabbit hole, where I may do that is actually see where the sources of the pictures come from because there's
I
quite
wonder,
possible if you check the source, there may be other photos if you're looking to, to tell a whole story about a place, which is what we're talking about this couple of weeks, all about that place. If you were looking on, doing something on a place, which after the whole concept from when I first heard about all about that place is that seems to me to be a really cool thing to do with places like where your grandparents lived, where you grew up, where ancestors, like I said, my ancestors came from England, and I got all rabbit hole diving during Simon's talk and Googled the Usworth, I'm not saying it right, in England. It's in Durham County, Northern England, as that's where my grandmother was born. And I think it's where my grandparents got married. And I think my grandfather wasn't born there, but there was a massive colliery there, which is a coal mine in there. And he was a miner, and his whole family were all miners. So that would explain probably how they met, as he probably was in that town. But I thought that would be a good story to tell about. And that was with Simon saying how he was surmising how his grandparents might have met when you don't actually know the story, but can provide a little bit more interest in it too. So I
Wonder
just
if, sorry, I
go ahead,
wonder
Liz.
if you, sorry, I wonder if you put the land description, Kathy, for your grandparent, I wonder what would come up.
Yeah, I'd have to find it. We searched we had the where their farm was. We
Yeah.
actually found the farm with the land description, but I
Oh,
had to
did
do
you?
a little detective work because the land description, one of my aunts had written like a history, and I discovered when we went to search for land description, she actually missed one of the numbers. And
Oh,
so but I managed to track, knowing that what district it was in, I managed to get a hold of somebody in the town's registry office through the member of the provincial legislature for that town, who conveniently happened to be a friend of mine. So that worked out well. But we were able to eventually locate the exact location of the farm, and a couple of my cousins went there and took pictures of it.
oh, nice.
And also in their driving around, they found the hospital where um, I don't know if my mom was born there. She might have been born. No, she was born there too, where the kids that were born in Canada were. And it's all chained off now and big do not enter signs around it. But they were able to get pictures of the actual hospital in the town that near where the farm,
Yeah.
obviously the farm wasn't
Yeah.
right in the town, but we were able to locate the actual land description, and they found the farm, and it was sort of obviously it's just somebody's big field. There's
Sure.
no longer, the buildings are all long gone, and but it's all part of somebody else's big farm. But yeah, the land descriptions would be very useful because
Yeah.
those are precise locations.
Interesting.
And we've talked a lot about scans, but even I was looking with digital photos because my kids send me pictures. My son sent me a picture. He's on his trek home from Atlanta, Georgia, and so he'd stopped somewhere in Missouri near St. Louis where there's a place, and I keep forgetting the name of it, but it's where one of the original settlements that was there way before Christopher Columbus, much like we have in Newfoundland and Canada, that disproving the fact that Columbus didn't actually discover North America. He came along after lots of other discoverers. But at any rate, I clicked on the information button for the photo, and he has turned off in his phone, as I have, location of photos. And so even if it's a digital photo, if the person taking the photo and the camera has turned off their location or the GPS, you're still going to have to try and figure out where it was. Because if they haven't turned it off, it's quite handy because you'll get the geolocation of a place, which can be very helpful and can be another neat thing to add to where the picture was taken. But if someone's turned off those for privacy concerns or whatever, and I have mine turned off because I take a whole pile of pictures off my back deck and around where I live, so I don't really necessarily want those people identifying my house number from that. So it's not just for physical photos.
Yeah, interesting.
To the point earlier, you were asking about finding where else a photo has been, find the source of the photo. It's actually also, this is what TinEye was originally for, as I said, so that people could see if their copyrighted images had been used elsewhere. You can also find out if somebody swiped your picture off of Ancestry, for example, and used it somewhere else because it's all indexed. And it's a great way to find where a source image was. I just did a search on photo and discovered that I had used it previously as Ponga. Where I was wondering what the make and model was of the car, and I had posted it in a very ambiguous context for Ponga. And sure enough, somebody came along and told me exactly what make and model the car was. So now I know. In 2020, go figure.
Yeah, that might have been me that told you that, because that's about when I started following you, I think.
Oh,
At some point back then, because I was like, I can tell you how to help you identify what make a model of cars. And it's interesting because I remember that my mom had a car called a DeSoto. That's what they always called it? A blue body and white top. I can remember that. I
uh-huh,
can't find a single picture of it in our collection. And
uh-huh.
I'd like to have because it was our car and I remember it. But I've been searching now for that model and trying to find a picture that might be helpful. Hi, Emily. Uh, so that's and it's another thing. It's like the license plate searches in that big collection I had where the people moved all over everywhere. I got a lot out of from using Google to Google the look of the license. Like I'd Google license plates for Oklahoma,
Mhm.
and then you can specify about the years you're looking for. And then you can, if you find the plate that matches, it'll often tell you what year it was. Or if you're lucky in the picture, you can actually see, depending on how old or where it was taken, they'll have like the year right on the license plate. So it's like, wow, well, that's helpful. Because then and again, not going to tell you what day it was, but it'll give you that information on that might be useful in identifying pictures.
And then we don't have that now here in Alberta, right?
Not anymore. No, we just have
No,
license
which
plates.
is too bad. Yeah,
All of us look like we're driving around with expired license plates
yeah,
now.
that's
They
right.
stopped issuing a new tags. So the tag that used to have the year on it, we don't have those anymore.
That probably
Yeah,
means you don't get tickets for having expired ones. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. Well, they look it up now.
yeah,
They
they
miss
just cut it out
demonstrated, I
one
think.
year. They
Yeah.
decided
All
just
those license plate readers that are checking everything else too.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So any other questions or comments? Anything anybody else has used to find locations or any other hot tips or
Am I late or early?
you're sorry, Emily, you're late. We started at
Oh,
an hour ago, basically.
I thought it was at 6. I'm in Dallas. I thought it was at 6.
You're central, right?
Yeah.
So
5.
6 Eastern, so it would have been 5 o'clock your time.
Oh,
But the good news is it was all recorded,
That's right.
okay.
including the little disruption at the beginning. I apologize.
And when I crashed my computer by, you're welcome, Kathy. When I crashed my computer by doing too many Google things when I was sharing, I upset Zoom and I had to leave and join again. So that's the beauty of the recording. You get the experience of the technical difficulties too.
Yes.
Today has been all about fancy tech, and sure enough, we've been bitten by the fancy
Fancy
tech.
tech.
That's really all it comes down to. I did an update of my phone pops up and she points out that Kathy points out that it was out of sync in my lip thing, which happens. And so I said, okay, let's just turn it on and off. You want to install the news? Sure. And got a bada bing, bada boom. Oh, well.
Mhm.
Any more questions or comments or things people have used or?
Well, Kathy, if you keep going on those kind of things, you'll let us know.
Yes, I
Right?
will for
Just,
sure.
you know, um,
Let me take a moment to give a little plug for this is just getting started on the All About That Place series of programs. And it was very gracious of you, Kathy, to pick up on the place thing since we do love a good theme. And so we have yesterday's program with Simon Davies, and then the full All About That Place series starting out of the Society of Genealogists in the UK begins tomorrow and runs through October 6th. Our very own Anne Larkham is giving a talk. When again is that?
Sunday, the 6th of October.
Sunday,
It's
the
6 p.m. UK time.
6 p.m. UK time, which conveniently is 4 p.m. Pacific time, isn't
Which
it?
is 6 p.m. my time in
Actually, it
Dallas?
is not. It is not.
No.
That's not right.
What
It's
time is
10.
it Pacific?
It's 10 a.m. Pacific time. 6
Oh,
p.m.
Okay,
your
it's
time.
going to be 2
Yeah.
hours later for you, Emily. 1
Yeah.
hour for me in Mountain and 2 hours for you
So
in Central.
noon for
okay.
you, noon
So
for you
12.
in Dallas. And those are all
Okay.
popping up either on the Facebook group. It's a private group you have to join, All
I
About That
did.
Place. Great.
Yeah.
Or it's also on the Society of Genealogists YouTube page.
Okay.
I have a
Okay.
talk on at 8 o'clock, the very last talk, which will just pop up in the recording. I'm also putting it into Project Kin,
Mhm.
all about really all about projects and storytelling. It's the same old thing. You know who I am.
Okay.
You know what I do. And then of course we have our 5 episodes that will all run at this time slot, or starting now, 4 o'clock
Starting
Pacific
now,
time, which
yes.
is midnight in London, to try to make the point that it is after hours to the whole All About That Place series for the benefit of the rest of the planet, or at least this third
Yeah.
of the planet.
This part.
So this part.
The other thing we want to mention is just as a reminder, we changed the date of the October Kathy's Corner, and we're going to have it on the 31st of October on Halloween. At the same time, which would be, what time did we start? 4 o'clock
3 p.m.
Mountain,
Pacific.
3 p.m. Pacific,
yeah.
5 p.m. Central.
Okay.
And I know you can figure out your own. I can't do that much math in my head. So what we're gonna do there is divert again a little bit. We'll get back on track in November with talking about how to date photos, but we're gonna talk about Halloween. So bring your favorite Halloween pictures, any stories you have about Halloween, or as it's it's actually, I don't think it is the Day of the Dead, Barbara. I think that's a different date. But
November 1st, I thought, was Day of the Dead.
yeah, so again, coming up there, so we're going to expand it right off Halloween. If you have stories about the November 1st, and we're celebrating in Canada, and in the Remembrance Day is the 13th, Veterans Day in the United States, Remembrance Day in England.
11th.
So if you have any stories you want to share that day about your military history of your family too, we're going to just do kind of an open sharing.
Okay.
Jennifer said it's 4 a.m. in Australia. Yikes. But that's what we're going to do on the 31st. So we thought, well, we unfortunately, I had a commitment on the 24th. So when we looked at either just not having one, and Barbara said, well, we could move it to the 31st. I said, yeah, that works for me.
Okay.
I'll just make my husband hand the candy out for the first part of it. We'll be going there. So if you have pictures to share of Halloween's, I was thinking about it today when I was in rabbit holes and found pictures, but I thought, maybe I'll make a Halloween album just of like from all the pictures I have of anybody in a Halloween costume, from my childhood all the way up to my kids.
And I
So.
guess costumes are optional for us.
I might have one on though, because I still dress up for Halloween,
I think we all need white rabbit costumes.
Yes.
Will
Question
our,
be arranged.
so
A question
how
for
will,
you, oh, sorry.
how will our ticket work then? Will it just be put forward? Do you think on Zoom then?
Oh, I know on Zoom. Don't worry. You're
Yeah.
logged in. You're already ready. If you were registered on the whatever the
For all those.
24th.
yeah,
Supposed to be
you
January.
for October whatever it was,
Yep.
it's now October 31st because
It'll
I already
just
moved
go.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Should
I
we
guess
wrap up the recording, Barbara? And
yes, good point.
I'm gonna watch your video